Good evening, everybody out there in Falcons world. This is your boy Berto, your host for the 95 North Falcons Talk Show. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a special guest in the building this evening, Stephen J of the Check Down Podcast. My friend, thank you so very much for joining me on this Tuesday evening, man. It was on short notice, but again, thank you so much. Please talk to the folks, talk to the world, let them know a little bit more about yourself and your podcast, please.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate talking about the Dirty Birds, our Atlanta
Mm.
Falcons, any opportunity that I get. I do run a YouTube channel, The Check Down, and we pretty much do commentary on the Atlanta Falcons, pretty much editorial type commentary. We definitely throw stats in, but it's pretty an emotionally driven, fan based take on some of the decisions and hot topics that are pretty hitting with our fans. And so you can hit me up on YouTube at the Check Downer or Check Downer. You can also hit me on X, formerly Twitter, at Check Downer, and I'm on Facebook as Steven Check Down. And so make sure you hit me up, especially on YouTube. Give us a like. Check out our videos that we posted, and we put a lot of work in those.
Beautiful, wonderful, wonderful. Before we get into this Falcon situation, man, let me just shout out the chat real quick. Like always, little cousin Bernie Contreras is in the building. What's going on, brother? Brother, hope all is well. Playboy Darren, what's going on, brother? Hope all is well with you. Jason Roberts is in the building. Justin Swisher Sweets is in the house. Tyreek Johnson, my brother, let's get it. GA. Jamal D. Mariana is in the building. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening and the folks that will catch this on replay. Really, really appreciate your comments, would-be comments, and thoughts as it pertains to the Kirk Cousins situation, man. 2024, on the first day of 2024, which is the free agency market or the legal tampering period when it opened, Falcons made headway, signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million contract. Now, to some, it's a frown because, yes, of course, there's no secret, there's no covering it up. Kirk Cousins suffered a devastating injury last week in Week 8, torn Achilles, of course, and a lot of the Falcon faithfuls are not with that, but we hope to clear the air on that situation and bring you some insight, some information as it pertains to Mr. Kirk Cousins. Of course, there are some concerns as well that Stephen and I will talk upon also. But Stephen, quarterback play was the Achilles heel, no pun intended, for these Atlanta Falcons
Yeah.
last year. Very inconsistent
Hmm.
quarterback play. Young Desmond Ritter obviously thrust into the fire.
Right.
Relatively too early, as some would say,
Yeah.
and it showed. Unfortunately, we got benched a couple of times last year by then head coach Arthur Smith, and then the reins were handed to Taylor Heineke, and much of the same thing. Fast forward to now, we have that substantial upgrade. But your thoughts on Kirk Cousins here in Atlanta?
Initially, I was disappointed when I heard the news. I mean, you heard the speculation for over a week that we may get
Mm,
Kirk Cousins, and I went back and started watching some of his games from 2023 before he got injured. And just from my perspective, I felt like, his numbers, his statistics didn't necessarily match, what I was watching on the field. Now, this is coming from a fan of a quarterback deprived franchise, at least for the last
mm,
several years. But at the same time, I think that being deprived makes me hungrier and a little
mm,
more selective in what I want in a quarterback because I
mm,
know subpar play at the quarterback level very well as an
mm,
Atlanta Falcon fan. And so I'm not saying that he was subpar play, but I wanted steak and potatoes. I didn't just want, okay, he's a good, serviceable, he's efficient,
mm,
and throw out stats that, if you really pay attention to, how well a quarterback plays, you can see through some of it. It kind of reminds me of the quote from Mark Twain, there are lies, there are damn lies, and then there's statistics. And
mhm,
so, when you look at it from that perspective, I was like, But as a committed unwavering, unconditional Falcons fan. I'm with Kirk. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I'm rooting for Kirk, and he's a very likable guy. If you
Mm-hmm.
watch the quarterback movie or the quarterback Netflix special, you can't help but root for him. He's just
Yeah.
one of those dudes that has that it factor that makes you want him, want to help him win. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I balance that with my love for the Falcons. It's like, yeah, he's cool, but Arthur Blank's old. He's getting older,
Yeah.
and time is running out. I don't mean to sound morbid, and I'm not speaking directly about him, you know, taking off, but at the same time,
Right.
it'd be nice for him, all the money and all of the strategy and so forth that he's invested in the franchise, because I was here when the Rankin Smith family owned the team.
Mm-hmm.
And what Arthur Blank has done is just a complete 360. And I would love for us to win a Super Bowl under his ownership. And I think that I see the strategy with Kirk Cousins, because we have these young weapons
Yes.
that are still pretty inexpensive. We
Mm,
got
right.
Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Algier.
Mm-hmm.
And we need a chief, we need a captain, to make things happen. And we haven't had that. And
Yeah.
so I definitely see it. I'm rooting for Kirk, but my initial response was, really? Well, all of these quarterbacks, deep quarterback, availability in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is where we're going. And that's not to say, we still may take a quarterback. Who knows? But
Right.
since we have
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins now, I'm leaning more towards either putting some toys around him, grabbing one of those wide receivers,
Mm.
or getting Dallas Turner,
Mm.
as an edge rusher, really beefing up what we have. And I'm thinking that maybe we're not grabbing a wide receiver, certainly not with number 8, but since we went out and got Mooney.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
3 years, $39 million comes over from Chicago, and there was an important stat that was thrown out there about Darnell Mooney, and that was
Mm,
42% of the passes thrown his way were incomplete passes, and he's coming into a situation now where, for the past 5 years, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league is now under center for our Atlanta Falcons, and of course, Kirk Cousins, which he was fifth. Wait, actually, no. Let me take that back. He was top 5 in every statistical category as it pertains to the quarterback position,
mm,
QBR, passing yards, QB rating, etc. So
mhm,
Kirk Cousins comes here, and he's the most accomplished quarterback that was on the market. Now, you mentioned, possibly moving up into the draft and acquiring one of these young talents, which this by far has been one of the more talented QB classes since that. I want to say 2020, when the Trevor Lawrences of the world was
sure.
available, and things like that. Back in 2021, there really wasn't a cream of a crop, so to say. There wasn't one guy that initially stood out. You had your Trey Lances,
Mhm,
Justin Fields, and stuff like that, and we went. We went in different routes, obviously, but with Kirk Cousins coming into this offense now, the benefactors, as you was mentioning, is the young skill set players, the Drake Londons, the Tyler Algiers, the Kyle Pitts, etc. Uh, I think Kirk Cousins is going to elevate this Falcons offense by a lot.
mhm,
Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson talked about having that elite processor and the guy that wants the ball at the end of the game. And I know that some folks may question wanting the ball at the end of the game, because there has been games where he really hasn't shown up. But I
sure.
think the most important thing that has happened in between is time, and that's time for Zach Robinson to, maybe when the opportunity was bestowed upon him to become an offensive coordinator, he can shore up some of the things that he might see in his next quarterback, and that being
Mhm,
Kirk Cousins. Now that he can tie up some of those loose ends and have Kirk Cousins possibly perform at a higher level than what we've seen him in Minnesota. And that's probably tough to say, and folks will leave folks wondering, how do you how do you do better with a guy like Justin Jefferson? Sure, we don't have that currently on our roster, but Kirk Cousins walks into a situation similar to what he had in Minnesota. Zach Robinson knows Kevin O'Connell. There's the familiarity right there. So I can see this Falcons offense having a lot of variations of what the Rams did, obviously, and what the Vikings are currently doing. So a mesh between the two could be exactly what we need to unlock all these playmakers. The Darnell Mooney situation, I view that as our Jordan Addison 2.0. It's a guy that, I hate to uh, put them in the same breath, but the makeup, the stature, the blazing speed, the route tree that he can run, it's all there. And I think that Zach Robbins is going to maximize and bring out of him, from the down years that he had in Chicago these past 2 years.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm really excited. I'm with you. I'm head over heels over the Kirk Cousins. Well, shouldn't say head over heels, but I'm excited now, and I'm rooting for Kirk Cousins for success. But there is the injury that is a concern. And I know that you put out a video not too long ago, and folks, it's available. If you go to YouTube, Stephen J. Checkdown or Stephen Checkdown or the Checkdowner, he breaks it down. So I will please just talk to the fans about your concern with this Achilles situation.
So my concern is not only about the Achilles, it's about how aggressive and how very clever and astute and just the business acumen of Kirk Cousins. You got to give the man his flowers about getting his money. I mean, he
Oh,
gets his money all the time. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because he just got $180 million, $100 million guaranteed, and he can't even perform at the signing of the contract.
mhm.
Okay. And so for me, that's pretty risky. I know that technology with respect to medicine
Sure.
has certainly
Hmm.
advanced, quite a bit. But at the same time, it does worry me. I'd be lying if I'd say, hey, we're about to sign this guy. I'm hopeful that, the medical runs its course the way that we expect it to.
Mhm.
And while he's not a mobile quarterback, it's my understanding that, the leg is that's injured, the Achilles, that side is his planting foot
Mhm.
for when he throws. And so that worried me. And that's the word I really used in the video that I produced. Not that, I'm angry. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little angry at first because I was like, man, this is not, what I expected. But then it soon morphed into worry. Like, we have these young players. The last thing I want is, type of situation that the Jets had last year, or that Matt Ryan faced when he went to
Mm.
the Colts.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, he declined. Well, we saw Matt Ryan decline here, so it's not like
Yeah.
he went from being an MVP to looking like he looked in Minneapolis. I mean, in Indianapolis. But at the same time, that was a concern of mine, and so I am hopeful. And
Mhm.
as an unconditional Falcon supporter, I know it's going to work out.
Mhm.
But I guess the straightforward assessment of who Kirk Cousins is and who he was just makes me pause just a little bit. Rooting for him, I think we'll win. I think we have the weapons, absolutely.
Mhm.
And so if he comes
Mhm.
back and he can distribute the ball like he did before, I think we're going to be in a great position.
Mhm.
What I don't like though, and this is not necessarily about Kirk Cousins, is when you listen to the national pundits, the perception of who we are as a franchise and what they can expect from us. It's like, well, you know what? They'll win the South now. Well,
Mm.
we almost won the South the last 3 years. I know almost isn't winning it, but we almost won the
Correct.
South with Mariota and Ritter,
Mhm. Yeah.
and Heineke. We almost did. And so to me, that's a very low bar. I'm
Mhm.
trying to go far. I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting value for the dollars that Mr. Blank is spending,
Mhm.
on Kirk Cousins. Because if we're a quarterback away, which is debatable, if we're a quarterback away, then I expect, to be, trying to make it to the NFC Championship game. I want to go as far as we can go. And that's not to say that I'm going to be disgruntled if we don't make it there, but I think you have to set your goals pretty high. You
Yeah.
don't want to start out with just the South.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very true. So, and hindsight, so anything less than a championship game, would you consider that a failure here in Atlanta, or if a failure in its first year, experimental year with Kirk Cousins?
No, well, no. When I assess how we are as a team, I dig deep, and I know a lot of other people too, probably like yourself. We
Mhm.
could probably lose the first playoff game, but if we are looking at the field and the play on the field, and it's clear, like if you look
Mhm.
at Green Bay, it's like, okay, they're going to be around. That's the
Mhm.
expectation. They have their quarterback. San Francisco. If we're playing hard like Detroit was,
Yeah.
when you see the talent, you're like, no, okay, we lost, and I'm angry about it. I'm not happy because I'm emotionally attached to this football game and this football team. But if I see where we are and that we have real talent and real cohesion of our offense with our quarterback and our weapons, then I wouldn't say it's a failure. I mean, I think categorically you could say it's a failure,
Mhm.
but I'd be like, let's run it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my take on the experiment and how it could be. We can get some longevity out of a season per se. Now with the $180 million value hanging above Kirk Cousins' head, for me, I kind of sway away from adding another piece of weaponry, or for his disposal, specifically in the first round. Now,
Mhm.
acquiring Kirk Cousins should not hinder what the Falcons do in the first round. I've said
Sure.
this on multiple platforms, my own. If Falcons have the ability to move up or they can move down. If they move up, I know it's probably to get their guy of the future, their
Mhm.
quarterback of the future, whether that be a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels, and I'll stop
Mhm.
there. Uh, the price might scare them though, because now we're talking about future picks that you would have to part ways with. And I don't know if the organization is ready to part ways when there is substantial gaps or holes that are going to be filled, voided in the next couple years. You got to start thinking about Grady Jarrett and his age, coming off a knee injury. How is he going to produce in year
Mhm.
one? David Onyemata is getting long in the tooth as well.
Sure.
And those are kind of I should say, like the pillars on the defense right now. So, but
Mhm.
trading down, to a team that like Minnesota, let's do business with Minnesota. If we move down a couple spots and acquire a couple more draft picks, then
Mhm.
we can start looking at this protection of Kirk Cousins. And I'm talking about upgrading the bookend positions, whether that be left tackle, whether that be right tackle. You
Mhm.
gotta protect him. You have to. Does
Sure.
Kirk Cousins release? Hey, does he have a quick release? Yes. Is the verbiage going to be, somewhat similar to what he had in Minnesota, where he could probably possibly elevate the play of a McGarry or Jake Matthews? That's quite possible, but I wouldn't want to risk it either. I would want all hands on deck in protecting him. The Falcons' offensive line for the past 2 years have had low sack numbers, and what I mean by low, they're in their 30s, right?
Mhm.
You backtrack a little bit more to 2021, Matt Ryan's last year here. The Falcons gave up 40 sacks, right? And
Mhm.
this is to a quarterback that I'm not going to say he was statuesque, but he was that sneaky athletic term and fits the mold of what Kirk Cousins is now. Even more so now that he's coming off this sort of injury, you want to protect that. You
Mm.
want him upright. You don't want him taking unnecessary sacks. So my thing is, if we trade down and acquire more picks, I think that we can build the offensive line a little bit more stouter. Center could probably stand a little bit of an upgrade, and as I mentioned, the bookend spots at right and
Sure.
left. We can also acquire the quarterback of the future in Michael Penix, possibly.
Mm. Mhm.
There's a gentleman from Tulane. Oh my God, his name is not coming to my mind right now, but another accurate, tall guy that can move the ball down the field. Uh, from what it looks, man, Spencer Rattler looks to be adequate enough. Also,
Mhm.
some may compare him to Desmond Ritter, but we're not going to make that comparison. It's just what we see by what we see right now.
Sure.
But yeah, skill positions in this draft are very, very deep. So
Yeah.
Atlanta acquiring more picks can absolutely upgrade everything that they want to do. It just has to be calculated. And right now, I think the most calculated thing they can do is protect Kirk Cousins and that leg and that $180 million investment that the Falcons just made. I see some folks in the chat before we go on a little bit more. And again, thank you everybody for joining the stream this evening. It was a last minute thing. And again, thank you to Stephen for being so gracious enough to join me tonight. We have Carrie in the building. She says, I read that the Falcons offered Hunter a 3-year, $75 million deal, but Houston offered 2 years with more guaranteed. Plus, that's his hometown. And also, Houston doesn't have a tax. So that's probably why he took lesser years for more money.
Yeah.
And I know that we were in the running for Danielle Hunter, and wow, would he have elevated this defense? Absolutely. But unfortunately, he's in Houston. But there's some other names to look out for with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack possibly being available of either by release or trade. But Steven, let's pivot a little bit. We talked about the Kirk Cousins situations and concerns. What do you see the Falcons, and what can the Falcons do to elevate their defense? This is a defense that was ranked 11th last year, and in the most important statistical categories, which was red zone defense and third down defense, the Falcons were top 5. Of course, gone is Ryan Nielsen. We insert now Jimmy Lake, and we have some important holdovers by the names of Jerry Gray and Dave Huxtable. So I know edge rusher is a premium. We've had a very hard time upgrading that spot ever since the days of my friend John Abraham.
Yep.
But man, is there somebody in the draft that catches your eye? Off rip.
Dallas Turner,
Dallas Turner.
as an edge, and I think we have a few draft picks in the secondary that we have to see, how they do. I forget the young man's name, but he's a shorter cornerback. He played he started last year at the end of the season. I can't believe I forgot his name. Very very aggressive young man. But I think that if we're not getting a weapon for Kirk Cousins, we need to we need a true edge rusher. That's what we need, because if you have someone attacking the quarterback, that's going to make everyone else look better. And we can't forget that we have Jesse Bates in the back, that's doing a phenomenal job. And, I'm interested to see, what happens with our cornerbacks, quite honestly, because we didn't have very many interceptions last year. I don't remember what the number is, but I think it was single digit,
I think so. Predominantly all Jesse Bates.
Yeah. And we can't have that. But I think if we get a strong pass rush, that will help as well. If you look at quite a few of the picks that quarterbacks throw, especially if you just look right here at Desmond Ridder, and I'm not apologizing for Desmond Ridder. All of us saw how he played, but at the same time, quite a few of those picks, he was rushed or he was in the midst of being taken down. And so you need that. You get the quarterback uncomfortable and they want to release the ball. They want to get the ball out of their hand. And it gives us an opportunity to pick it off. And so I would definitely say edge rusher. And Dallas Turner is who I have my eye on. Now, we would have to take him at 8.
We would. Yes. We would definitely. A guy that could probably, fall out of the top 10 is a guy that my guy Millie Mills right here is high on, and that's Jared Verse. Jared Verse, Florida State Seminole, man.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
He comes screaming off of that edge. Sets a good edge, for run stopping capabilities and stuff like that. My only thing with him is at times his speed outplays his result. What I mean by that is I think he takes himself out of play sometimes because he just rushes a little too quick and it allows the quarterback to move in. But with Jay Rodgers and company here, we can refine that and you get that corrected ASAP. But that's another name to look out for. Definitely pass rusher has to be, the other position of importance. Falcons finished last year with 42 sacks. Which we didn't have a legit threat on the outside. Right. So to do that, in a collective notion, then that's pretty impressive in its own right. But I think we're moving away. Obviously, we're moving away from that Ryan Nielsen scheme and then inserting more of a Raheem Morris, where Raheem Morris used guys like Colby Turner and Bryant Young last year on his own respective defense for the Rams to get these sacks, and both gentlemen rookies 9 and 7 sacks respectfully. I think Atlanta's probably going to look at that model. Let's get 5 out of this guy, 6 out of this guy, maybe 9 or 10 out of one other guy, and we have some guys in house that are moving back to a more favorable 3-4 defense. Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone from a
Sure.
few years back. Definitely got to add on to that pool of talent right there. You mentioned the cornerback position.
Mhm.
Jarius Sneed of the Kansas City Chiefs is up for the grabs, as they
Right.
say, and Atlanta's heavily linked to him. Your thoughts, real quick, on the possibility of Atlanta, parting with a second rounder for his services?
Well, draft picks, in my opinion, are it's the currency that you use to get talent, and the talent that you get from the draft is not proven. Okay,
Mhm.
but talent that you get from another team in free agency, you see you have a body of work that you can assess and analyze and decide, does this guy fit, you know, what we do. And I'm always partial to free agency because you know what you're getting in most cases. Look at Jesse Bates, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a question right here, right quick, from my younger brother, Tyreek Lowe. What's going on, buddy? Hope you're doing good. He says, "What do you think about the Mooney signing?" He was probably the second best talent available in this free agent pool as far from the skill set position. We saw Michael Pittman go back to Indianapolis. Calvin
Mhm.
Ridley. Well, I was hoping for a reunion.
Right.
Probably end up with the Pats because that's the strongest rumor up here in the Northeast currently. But
Mhm.
Darnell Mooney, I think he gets a fresh start, a change of scenery. He plays with a more accurate quarterback now, and I think that Zach Robinson will utilize him in his best way, which was 2021 under Luke Gadsby, the then offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, which saw his best statistical year, over 1,000 yards. So I think that they'll look back at that tape and really key in, hone in on what he did a lot, which was take the top off of defense, but he also killed you and those drag routes and stuff like that because speed kills, and obviously in the NFL you need that on your offense. We have another interesting little comment over here from my guy Antoine Smitty Smith, in Smitty Sports Machine. Shout out to you, brother. He says trade for Khalil Mack, draft Dallas Turner should be the route we take.
I like it.
100%. I
I
love
love
that.
it.
I love
Yeah.
that scenario.
Yeah.
I love that.
Shout
That
out to
is
City
a
Sports Machine. Absolutely.
that is an overnight fix right there, man. Getting these two burners on the edge, and complement that with Arnold Ebiketie and hopefully D'Angelo Malone, if he can get his head out of his butt. Sorry to use that term like that, and actually get on the field, or get some meaningful snaps under his
Yeah.
belt. But yes, this is a very popular route.
Mhm.
But again, while all of these names are great, I will still hang my hat on acquiring a left tackle, whether that be Joe Alt,
Right.
Folasani, the young man out of Penn State, or the
Mhm.
guy from Oregon, Talisi and Unga. That's another name. I'm all about protecting Kirk, because if Kirk can't get the ball out of his hands as quick as he normally can, because that pass rush is right there in his face, then this signing means absolutely nothing. So I think it's in Atlanta's best interest to go ahead and shore up the offensive line a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me see as I keep going here through these comments. Yeah, we got Octavius Bell Jr. Thank you for joining the stream this evening. Says, what do you think we do next in free agency after today's signing? Well, the Falcons, treated us to day one with Kirk Cousins, treated us to day two with Darnell Mooney, obviously two offensive pieces. So why not break the mold, and let's bring in a defensive guy. Obviously, there's still some edge rushers out there left. Whether the Falcons, trade for, as mentioned, Khalil Mack, or wait for the Joey Bosa sweepstakes to unleash if he's released. I know Chase Young is there, but I'm just buyer beware with the Chase Young situation. But
Mm.
to answer this question, I think it should naturally be somebody on defense to go ahead and be acquired by these Atlanta Falcons. And to your take, Steven, what do you feel it should be the next
I think
free
that
agent signing?
yeah, definitely defense. I mean, I
Mm,
think what we did last year on defense was commendable. I
mhm.
mean, that defense, and I will say a lot of that was because of Jesse Bates. And so if
Yep.
we can continue to build in free agency a strong defense, I think that's going to help the team tremendously. But I want to go back to one of the other questions about Mooney.
Sure. Yeah.
I like that we draft. Not, I'm sorry. I like that we picked up Mooney,
Hmm.
but I was really looking to get more receivers in the draft because the draft
Hmm.
is deep for receivers, and then we'd have them on a rookie contract as opposed to paying top dollar. And I quite honestly don't know a whole lot about Mooney. I've been looking at some of his numbers and going back on NFL Plus replay and looking at how he plays the game. I did see someone, and I don't know how accurate this is, that
Hmm.
said that his numbers were much higher when before Justin Fields was the quarterback.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
This is
and
correct. Yeah, so that would be referring back to 2021. So before
sure,
Justin was thrusted into the lineup, I think Mitchell Trubisky was the quarterback for a little bit
sure.
there. He helped elevate Darnell Mooney to to that year. I think 1,051 yards receiving.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah,
So
that's about it.
my thinking on Mooney would have been, let's grab our receivers from the draft because
Hmm.
more than likely they can come right in and be playmakers.
Hmm.
And let's spend our money on defense.
Hmm.
Let's buy the proven talent, from other teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? And with day three, if we go offense, that kind of just tips the scale in this draft being um, an all defensive draft. I would think, or imagine in some way. Maybe one more offense if maybe a Michael Penix is there. The
Mm,
Falcons do have some ammunition. If they stay at eight, they have the eighth pick, they have the 49th pick, and they have two third round picks, 74th and 79th. So they can really move up and down the draft board if they see one of their guys that's high on their draft board falling. So if a Michael Penix or one of the other aforementioned quarterbacks are available, Atlanta, I know they're not afraid to go and get their guy as history has shown that they move up quite frequently in the draft, especially when they see a player dropping that's on their high on their draft board. But
mhm,
Playboy Darian says I could see Leonard Floyd joining back with Raheem. I wish
mm.
it would have came to fruition, but unfortunately, Leonard Floyd did sign a 2-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers. So
Mm,
we can nix that. Uh, Ray Fitty says trade Caleb McGarry. That's a possibility, but the dead cap is it's what may turn off the Falcons, and I think they only saved 3 million by trading him, which 3 million, of course, in the NFL world is not a lot to us, but not in the NFL world. But yeah, I guess every dime counts if that happens, and if the Falcons not afraid to go into the dead cap situation, then
mm,
by all means. But make sure you elevate that position. And somebody threw a name in here. Dan Demand, thank you so much for joining the stream. Guyton, so he's talking about Tyler Guyton, right tackle out of Oklahoma, very
mm,
stout. Reminds me a little bit above. My God, he used to play left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. Tyron Smith. I
mm.
think what sometimes he can mature into that style of tackle, man. And he's going to be, a steal at some point in this draft, probably the back end of the first round, early second round. Go right through these. Some more of these comments here. Smitty says, late coach Braylon Trice at Washington, that could be an option day two. Latu was at Washington as well. Very valid point. Latu,
Okay.
UCLA, he was a demon at UCLA. I'm so surprised that this young man was able to come back. After from 3 years ago, he was medically ineligible to even play the game, and for him to be a draft nominee is unbelievable. Speaks to his character and his grit and drive to even be available in this draft. Braylon Trice, another young man that did pretty good, but I think that Washington Michigan game in the championship game kind of exposed a lot of his weaknesses. So he might be one of those guys that free fall, and you know what I mean by that, Smitty. But yeah, Steve, anything else you might want to add to the conversation, whether it be Kirk Cousins, whether it be the defense, anything that you would like to touch on, please.
I'm warming up to Kirk Cousins, and I'm not against him. I'm rooting for him because he's our quarterback now. I am concerned about the injury, so I'm going to be following that very closely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hopeful that we will still grab a quarterback, hopefully someone like Michael Penix Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, Kirk Cousins, he's older, so even if he does well with us over the next 2, 3 years, we'll begin to see a decline. And I really like the program that they have out in Green Bay. You know, the strategy
Yeah.
that they use. I mean, they just keep hitting, and
Hmm.
so we get a quarterback. We let him sit, learn the game, learn the speed of the game, understand leadership, all the things that will make him a better quarterback once he touches the field.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that Green Bay route, and I
Mhm,
believe it's a route that a lot of teams that have question marks at that quarterback position should take. They're reaping the benefits now of how Jordan Love showed out for
mhm,
them last year, and sit them behind Aaron Rodgers, let them season up a little bit more, and they're reaping the benefits. I think sure they had some minuses within this week itself, getting rid of some of their own players, but it's a
mhm.
team that and an offense that is built on the go, and I think that you know with the maturing that Jordan Love has done, I think he's gonna do some great things next year for the Green Bay Packers, man. Some other names here. Kelvin O'Connor says Leggett out of South Carolina is a beast. Debo after the catch. I'm
Hmm.
gonna disagree with that one. While Leggett is a beast, I will please go and watch Malachi Corley, Western Michigan wide receiver, man. Excuse me, Western Kentucky wide receiver. That's your Debo 2.0 right there. That is the Yak King, yards after catch king, man. So Playboy Darius says if Penix falls to us in the top of the second, he would thrive in this passing offense. 100%. I think so too. But that's one of the luxuries of having a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. There hoping that everything goes in full swing and he's able to compete from day one. This would allow a guy like Penix, who has some mechanical flaws in his game, to be rectified. The Falcons have a plethora of quarterback coaches on their staff that can just hone in and really get a guy right. So Michael Penix falls to Atlanta and in the second round. If I'm the Falcons, I'm running to the podium and putting my card in for Michael Penix. Are
Absolutely.
you a, are you a fan of Michael Penix, Stephen?
I
What do you
am.
feel
I
about his
am.
game?
I
Yeah,
really like the way he throws the ball around. I mean,
yeah,
to me, and I'm not a big college football fan. I watch the bowl games, and I watch Georgia and Alabama and Michigan. Um, but when I saw Michael Penix Jr. play,
hmm
I think the championship game did him a disservice. But
hmm
every other game that I saw him play, he was just very accurate, and
hmm
he had a lot of spin and zip on the ball.
hmm
And I think that would serve us well. I think it'll serve any team well, but we'd
yeah,
certainly love
yeah.
to happen.
Absolutely. Mariana says Tavondre Sweat. Woo! Man, that is a
Mm.
house on wheels, man. 6'4", 350 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. And
Mhm.
his counterpart there, Byron Murphy, the second also. Any one of those two guys, man, on this Falcons defense will play a major role going forward. But here's another one here from my brother Nathan Floyd, man. Thank you for joining the stream. He says, love Aramis Mims at right tackle out of UGA. Athletic
Mm.
monster. The dude's a house. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, folks, man, we got on here as a pop-up. We just wanted to give our thoughts and our feeling about this Kirk Cousins situation and just talk ball, man. I think it's so beneficial when you get two folks that just love the game of football, just get on screen and just really talk about it, the ins and outs. So, Stephen, again, man, want to take this chance to thank you again for being here on such short notice, and hopefully, we can have you on the show with myself, Smitty, and Chris Tipmore, and we can collaborate on something down the line. But again, if you want to just let the folks know where they can find you on your social media platforms and also on your YouTube account.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Check Downer, and you can also find me on YouTube at Check Downer. The name of our show is The Check Down. We do in-depth commentary on everything Atlanta Falcons. We're new. We started just a few weeks ago. We have 4 videos out there and a few short videos as well. And so check us out. Comment at Check Downer on YouTube.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you again. So, folks, man, if you guys support me, please go to Steven's YouTube page, as he mentioned, and just hit him with that subscribe, that like, that share, man. Get his videos out there so he can get so you can get into the algorithm of YouTube, man, because different perspectives are definitely a necessity, a need in this Falcon space. There's so many of us Falcons fans scattered throughout throughout this nation, and all of our perspectives are valid. So, Stephen, again, thank you so much to all the viewers, to all the folks in the comment. Thank you so much again for joining us. This was a quick pop-up show. Just wanted to collaborate with this man here and get some thoughts out there. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Run up those likes, hit that subscribe button. This is your boy Berto, your host of the 95 North Falcons Talk Show. We will see you guys soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Peace.